Hello, good morning. Welcome to episode 3 of the Shawl Knitter Unplugged. Today it's a gloomy grey day here in the little village of Sedgefield on the south coast of South Africa. I was hoping to take a walk on the beach, but that's not going to happen, so I decided to take this opportunity to record another episode as it's a quiet day and there's nobody around, so that's very helpful. So thank you so much for all of you who have been watching so far and commending me on my progression in podcasting. I'm totally brand new to this. Although I am not brand new to knitting by any means, I have knitted my whole life from a very young child, and I have engaged in many crafts, fibre crafts. I've studied textile design, and I love colour and I love fibre, and I need to keep my hands busy. So let's jump in. I've got quite a few things to share with you today. I'm knitting on right now on this very interesting pattern. It's called Tiny Birds, and it's by Nim Teasdale. I'll be putting all that information in the show notes. Can you see how the stitches crisscross over? It forms such a fabulous fabric, really. I'm totally in love with it. If I wasn't so fascinated to see how it would work out, I probably would not really be knitting it. It's a very focused knit. It basically consists of continuous one-stitch cables, where you knit the stitch after the first stitch through the back, and then you come and you knit the front stitch, and on the purl side you do exactly the same too. So it takes time, but it's forming this absolutely gorgeous fabric, which is floppy and has lovely texture. It is knitted out of a fingering yarn that has a small percentage of nylon in it, a sock yarn actually, which I think really adds to the beautiful drape of it. The pattern called for, it's knitted in two sections. So there's the multicolor section, and then there's a plain section that you add in at the end together with the main color. I'm going to be using this light rusty brown. But what really struck me about the pattern is it called for, I think she said something like your brightest variegated speckled yarn that you have. Use that. So I had just recently purchased this absolutely gorgeous and very variegated and very colorful yarn. Fingering yarn. I had two skeins of it, and this comes from one of our South African dyes called Big Fox. I'll put that down as well. And this is just a riot of color, and the minute I saw it I just had to have it, so I ordered two. And then when they came I thought, now what am I going to make with this? You know, it's like really seriously needs some consideration. So when I discovered this beautiful Tiny Birds pattern, I thought, well, that's it, the perfect thing. And indeed it is. As you can see, there's hardly any repetitiveness. Everything comes out in totally a unique way with these lovely little tiny birds cross stitches. So that is something I'm very excited about. I'm knitting it sort of in between other shawls because it's very intense. You have to really look at your work all the time, crossing the stitches over, knitting in the second stitch, then coming back to the first stitch. It's very good. It's very good for focusing. And I'm just very excited to see how it's going to turn out. So I think you can see behind me here on the mannequin are two of my current favorite shawls that I've knitted. I have dyed up the wool as well, and these colors are quite muted shades for my usual palette, but I was going for an elegant look, and I think I managed to achieve that. So let me get them off one at a time and share them with you. Here we go. So the first one is True Colors by Melanie Berg. I'm sure you might know this beautiful lace shawl. I've had this pattern for quite some time, and I suddenly needed some lace knitting in my life. And so I dyed up these very subtle colours. There is a bit of variegated in there. And I've used the grey, the light grey, which I call Thunder Clouds, and then this dusty rose together with this greenish pink variegated. And gosh, I mean, this lace just blocks out so beautifully. It's really gorgeous. And then the large wide end section is just in the pink and the grey. I'm very, very happy with it. It was also quite a focus work, and it drapes absolutely wonderfully. So that one I enjoy hanging around until it finds a home. So you may be wondering what I am wearing. It is indeed a knitted sweater, which is also embroidered. It's a beautiful piece of work. Maybe if I come a bit closer, you can see all the details. So it's got this chain stitch, which is done on top, and these little, I think they're called French knots, and little pieces of fabric with buttons and little wooden beads stitched in. It's knitted in all directions, sideways. It's got this two-color rib collar, and then this little design with the little loops and buttons, and the pattern goes all the way around. It is really a magnificent piece. So this sweater I actually bought second-hand in India about 5 years ago. It was absolutely gorgeous. I could see that it was hand-spun, pure wool. It was slightly damaged, but I had to have it, so I bought it. And then it had a label inside which said Nuwari Textiles. So I decided to Google it, and I found that it came from a cooperative in Nepal that was being led by, I think it was a Scandinavian designer, and they were knitting up the wool from Nepal into these gorgeous garments and selling them. And I actually found this exact sweater on the internet. It was knitted in 1982. So I was so happy to actually find this garment. It was slightly damaged. The cuffs had come unraveled. So I wore it like that for a while, but then eventually I took it out and I pulled out the unraveled cuffs and I knitted in these brown cuffs, which match this detailing in here. You can see, look at all this fine detail. It's totally wonderful. So I revived it, and now it's as good as new. It is so warm. It's like the warmest thing I possess, and I totally love it. I'm also wearing a hat that I knitted. Can you see? It's a very interesting little sort of beret. It's not really a beret, but it's knitted in this sort of off-centered circular design, which gives it quite a sassy little look. And that is from Julie Knits in Paris. I knitted a few of these a few years ago, and it's called More Caffeine Please. So I will put that in the notes as well for you to see. Before I go on to show you that other gorgeous shawl hanging around there, I did have a couple of questions in the comments from my last podcast, which I really appreciate. I love being able to, give my ideas and help where necessary. And it was Marie Louise Swart, and she is mostly a crocheter, and she's just beginning to knit, and she wanted to know what would be a good pattern for a beginning shawl knitter. So I have this lovely shawl here that I have made, which is very, very simple. Can you see? There we go. It's a half circular shawl, knitted in stocking stitch, and interspersed in between are some garter stitch with some yarn over holes. Now the holes just get bigger and bigger as you go down, And then at the border, there's this very holy, lovely sort of scalloped edge, which is just so easy to do. So this is a super lightweight shawl with a very easy construction. You basically start with a small tab and you increase on each side as you go along. And the stocking stitch sections are interspersed with a contrast color. You could even do it in all the same color, all the way down, and you could basically just keep on going as long as you wanted to before you did this scalloped edge with the lovely big holes, which I ended off in this sort of quite neon pink. So this shawl is called the abalone shawl, and it's from Nurturing Fibers, which is a local designer in South Africa, Carle Denning. Now, they have a website. I'll put that also down. It's basically nurturingfibers.co.za, and they have a few free patterns. And this is one of their free patterns. It's knitted. The pattern calls for lace weight. I used lace together with a strand of silk mohair, kid silk mohair, which is something I love to do. I love to incorporate mohair into my knits and hold it along with, especially with lace weight. It gives a beautiful kind of fingering sock weight thickness, and this one was knitted on a 3.75, and I think that's quite a good loose-ish gauge, which is what you want for the drape. It's very, very lovely and soft, and you can use your colors as you like. And there it is. So that's the abalone shawl, and it's a free pattern, and I will put that down the bottom. So let me come to the last shawl that is on the mannequin for today. So here I have a glorious piece of textile, a shawl, thought out in great detail by one of my favorite designers, Olga Jazzy. She is a specialist in technique. She is a perfectionist. Everything that I've ever made of hers is just top class design. Sorry, I hope that didn't block us out. Oh dear, sorry about that. Gosh, that's really not nice. Anyway, it is absolutely beautiful in this gorgeous woven sort of basket wear stitch. Yeah, it's a large shawl. It's called Kinship, and I think this could actually be one that she designed together with Stephen West. I know that they have done a collaboration. This might be it. I think it was under her name, but I will check that out. But it's really some very clever slip stitches together with garter stitch and stocking stitch, which gives this incredible textured overlaid effect. And yeah, I loved making it. It's quite large. In fact, I think I made it slightly shorter than she had said. You could make it as small or as big as you want. And it's very classic. I think in these, grey, pale pink and cream, it's a lovely garment that can be worn with anything really. So those are the shawls for today. Oh, I just thought I would also show you these mittens, which are from Olga Jazzy as well. I'll find the pattern exactly and put them underneath. This is an amazing design. They're actually made in two lengths. The one length is right up to the elbow, but I made the shorter length, which is very, very fitted. There's this panel down the side here. Can you see this stocking stitch panel? And there's decreasing and shaping all the way into the thumb, which is really lovely. And it ends off with what is it called? A bind off. I can't remember what it's called. A special bind off that's absolutely amazing. Gives it a totally really finished look. And I just happen to have these on just now, So yes, this is again hand spun wool from the Himalayas, mixed with some that I spun as well. They're very warm, very gorgeous. I like to knit mittens, fingerless mitts. It's got a tubular bind off, that's right. I think it's one of the few times I've actually gone for it. It's quite interesting, this tubular bind off. It gives like a commercial, beautiful finish. I'm very proud of that. So that is about it. I do still have my my Frank shawl, which is nearly at the end. Can you see the glorious colors? I'm really loving it. So I've knitted the 2 triangles left and right, as you can see, and then I've picked up the stitches, and I'm now busy on the final one. I've got about 4 or 5 more stripes to go, and then it'll be done. And then it will be blocked, and I will show you when it's finished. So today, as far as tips go, something that I found really handy, and I'm sure, you know, these are just things that I use myself. They might not be new to anybody. But because I knit a lot of shawls, I often find that the cast on edge and the straight edge at the top can become very tight. And then when I block the shawl, it limits the stretch of the fabric, which is not really good. So what I like to do, and I picked this up from one of the designers, is that after the first stitch of every row, I do a yarn over, and then I carry on with the design. And then at the beginning of the next row, so I get to the end of the row, and I would have done the yarn over on the previous row. I drop the yarn over and knit the last stitch. Then I turn around, knit the first stitch, yarn over, knit 2 stitches before the end, which is the yarn over, drop it, and knit the last stitch. Basically what this does is make the edge stitch double the size so that it has more stretch. Sometimes it's stated in the pattern, but even if it's not, you can just add it in. It's just knit 1 yarn over, and then at the end of that row, it's slip the yarn over, knit 1. You do that on every row, and that helps a lot. So I think that's all I have for you today. I've managed to get through this one. Thanks again for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please like and subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to build it up, and I have some interesting things coming up. There will be a knitting retreat, which I will be documenting in August, and maybe some interviews. Oh, on the point of interviews, I have added in my playlist on my page an interview that was done of me and my knitwear by Irina Shawl of Fiber Chats. If you don't know the Fiber Chats podcast, please go over and take a look at it. She does about 2 interviews a week with the most amazing fiber artists, not only knitting, crochet, spinning, quilting, weaving, and much more, much more. Just amazing. She's a great interviewer. She asks wonderful questions, and I was very excited and happy to be on her podcast. So take a look at that. I will also try to get that link down into the show notes if I know how. So have a fabulous week, all you knitters and fiber artists and crocheters, and yeah, happy knitting. Thank you for watching. Take care.